What is up, everyone? Vex30 here, coming in with my Imani champion chat. Now, if you don't know what a champion chat is, it goes as follows. There's two parts. This first part, I will talk about the champion. I will talk about their abilities, what changed, what didn't change, how they are, whatever I can talk about that's usually on the stat page, so it's more about facts and their loadouts and everything. And then the second part, I will just sit here and talk about what I think about the champion, what needs to be done, how they fit in the meta, how they were designed, everything about the champion. That's my opinion, and this first part will be more about facts. So let's jump right into it. Today we are doing Imani. So Imani is a very interesting champion. She's a damage champion, of course. She's different compared to all the other champions. She's more magical and lore based than anything I think we have in the game. Maybe you can consider Bomb King as at least as a damage. Bomb King, Drogos has a rocket launcher, you know, it's kind of like weird to say it's lore based, but Imani shoots fire and ice out of her hands. It's awesome. She's an amazing champion. She starts with 2200 health. Normal for all DPS, nothing really changes there. Customized, I just want to look at her skins really quick. Her default is great. I think her character design and their artwork is amazing. They did a really good job on her. Her gold skin, I love the new path they're taking for the gold and mastery skins, at least the gold skins. Snowdrift, I believe you get this out of the 2019 season pass, which I ended up getting. So I have this. This skin is sick because it changes your dragon color too. And the final one, the warder, I really like the different outlook looking at her. You know, it's kind of nice. It's a different way to do a skin. And let's talk about abilities, and then we'll get into loadouts. Abilities. So she has two forms, like I said earlier. She can shoot fire and then she can shoot ice. They have two different ability sets besides her movement. With her ice form, she shoots a frostbolt that does 650 damage and slows every 0.8 seconds. It's pretty nice. It's close to a Cassie shot. That's the closest I can compare it to. And her right click for that is a frost bomb that deals 800 damage at max range and also roots enemies for 1.5 seconds. You can also reactivate it to detonate it midair. This is a super fun ability, and it's balanced by the fact when you throw it, it's extremely slow and you can't do anything else while it's being thrown. So it's a pretty balanced ability, I would say. I think the root on it shouldn't cripple like it does currently, but it's just a personal opinion. In her fire form, you shoot out a fireball that deals 1100 damage. That's actually a typo. It does 1100 damage now every 1.6 seconds. And it has a charge time, kind of like Shaolin, and it's slower than Shaolin's. So it deals a lot of damage, but it takes a while. Now, here's another interesting fact about Imani. She has a mana bar. Dealing damage increases the mana, and when you have full mana, you shoot 2 shots. What that means is fire, how there's a long wind up when you shoot. As soon as you're at full mana, you wind up, you shoot, and then you shoot instantly again. So Imani has the potential for a 2200 burst at full mana. So managing your mana is huge, especially in fire form. In ice form, it's not as prevalent because the shots are pretty slow, but they're not charged up. But it does, whenever you're at full mana, it comes one after another. So you have to manage your mana really well. Let's talk about her movement. Frostfire Glide. Imani channels both elements, gliding through the air for 3 seconds. This ability doesn't feel amazing. You really do need to run some loadout cards to make it feel like a real movement ability. It doesn't have much verticality, and if you run into a wall for too long, it kind of just stops. But it's super fun. It's really nice to learn it. And you can combo that with your Inferno Cannon, which is your fire right-click form, which we'll talk about now, to glide up in the air and Inferno Cannon somebody. Now, Inferno Cannon deals 110 damage every 0.09 seconds over 3 seconds, piercing in a column of fire. This column of fire has a pretty big radius, but it's not too long range. You have to be semi-close to deal damage with it, but it is awesome to use, especially comboed with Frostfire Glide. You glide up into the air, and as soon as you press right-click, you glide in the air. You float. It's kind of like an Androx Assault, you could say. It feels amazing to use. Elemental Shift, this is how you switch back and forth. It's a 10-second cooldown, so you can't just spam it, which is awesome. And her ultimate, the Imani specialty, the Dragon's Call. Summon and control a frost, fire, breathing, draconic avatar. You become a dragon. It's Oh, it's crazy. It is so fun to use. But the balance, there's a couple of balances to this, which we'll talk about later, but you become a dragon and you burn everybody. It's amazing. Let's talk about our legendaries. First one, Splitting Ice. Frostbolt bounces to an additional enemy. I think the bounce does 350 damage. It used to do 400. If I had a suggestion, I think these should go more into detail. So whenever it says bounces to additional enemy, it should say it does 350 instead of the full damage, because that would be insane first reading it. But that's just a suggestion. But it's awesome. Splitting Ice is super nice because you can slow multiple targets at once for grouped up. Pyromania is the AoE legendary for Fire Form. Hitting twice with Fireball will make your third Fireball explode in an area. This explosion, I believe, had a buff to its radius and before it came out to live. So this legendary is alright. I've played with it. I don't think it's the best of the three. I think it's the worst of the three, but it's still good. All of our legendaries are viable. And the last one, honestly, my favorite, Mana Rift. After standing still for 1 second, create a Mana Rift around you that generates mana. Leaving this Mana Rift destroys it. You stand still for 1 second, which, if you're using Fire Form, it takes about 1 second to wind up your Fireball. So it kind of combos extremely well, and you kind of just chill around your mana well for a little bit and deal damage and have double shots of fire constantly. It's kind of crazy how much DPS you can output with this, plus Fire Form. I think Ice Form already charges enough mana, so you don't need it. You run Splitting Ice with Ice, but Mana Rift with Fire feels so good. This is Imani, though. She is an extremely different character in Paladins, but she's really fun to play. Loadouts. Let's talk about a few builds, and I want to create a build with everybody to show you the potential she has. So the first one I have, now these aren't the best builds for Imani. I think these are good builds I created, but I haven't really deep dive into the builds yet to really figure out what is the best and what is the most efficient way to run her. But the first one will be for her Fire Form. I love Pyretic Momentum. Like I said, her glide doesn't feel great, but when you run this, it feels so good. It's amazing. That's why I run it at 5. You could decrease it and maybe increase something else. You know, maybe put in another card instead of one of these. But it is really fun to run at 5. Swift Seer. Increase your movement speed while casting Inferno Cannon by 60%. When you're casting Inferno Cannon, you actually cannot move. But with this card, you can move. It increases by 20% up to full movement speed. So when I could say you could glide earlier with it, you do have to have this card. Besides that, you're a sitting duck. So running this card in Fire Form it's vital. You have to run it. Pilgrimage, I really just love the extra duration on glide. It's nice to be able to make sure I can get where I want to go. You can't go very vertical, so it gives you extra time to get higher with it, because you can go vertical with the glide, but it doesn't go very high very fast. Ancient Duty. Increase your maximum health by 250. This is just a nice card to run on any DPS. And Arcane Flame, it just increases the mana gain on my right-click damage, my Inferno Cannon. You can run any card that you feel like is necessary. 1-point cards are typically personal base, I would say. So feel free to run what you want. Permafrost. Now this is my ice build. Pyretic Momentum, I run this at 15 on this one. Mystic Fire, generate 12% mana a second while gliding in Frostfire. This scales from 4% up, so I put it at 12%. It feels really nice, especially comboed with the duration. You can just glide for a minute, get your mana up. Because you are using your Ice Form, you're not really running mana well, so it feels really good. Ancient Duty, 200 increased base health. It just helps you win these duels. Permafrost, this is so nice. You can increase up to level 5 to make your root a 2.5 second duration, which is nuts. This card is insane for Ice Form, and I love it. And the last one, of course, Pilgrimage, increase Frostfire Glide, 0.5 seconds. And the final build is something I haven't tested. I've tested once or twice. I really want to learn how to make this playstyle work. But it's a shifting build. This build is all about shifting back and forth from your fire and ice and min-maxing using your abilities and when to use them and when to switch. Let's go through this. Affinity. Reduce cooldown on elemental shift by 5 seconds. 10-second base cooldown, so you're constantly being able to shift back and forth. Draconic Will. Elemental Shift reduces the cooldown of Frost Bomb and Inferno Cannon by 5 seconds. Every time you shift, both of your right click, your big cooldown abilities, which they are both 20-second cooldowns, get decreased by 5 seconds, so you can constantly be rotating through them. Pyretic Momentum. Again, I love this card. I run it in all my builds. And I run a little bit of Swiss Seer, so when I'm on the fire form, it feels a lot better. If I were to change this build, I would do this, honestly. And then I run Increase Root by 0.4 seconds. Or, yeah. So, this build is a hybrid build between the two, and it's all about shifting back and forth and using your right click, your big cooldown, your big damage, and your big utility abilities to the maximum efficiency. If you can learn how to use this build, I feel like this build could be the one to go to on Imani, but I feel like it is the harder playstyle of all of them. But that is it for Imani. That is Imani. This is her. This is what she does. But there's a second part to this. We're going to go into me just sitting here talking about what I think about her, what needs to change, how they did on balance, what they need to do differently, you know, design, how she was designed, her artwork, everything. We're going to talk about everything in this next part. So I will see you there. So let's talk about Imani. Let's first go into something simple, her artwork. I think they did an amazing job. Thunderbrush and his team of artists there at Evil Mojo have done an amazing job when it comes to Imani, just as a base character. I feel like when it comes to her hands, the way they switch colors whenever you switch stances, her hair looks crazy awesome. Her armor, I think the character design and the artwork in this game have improved tenfold over the years, and it really does show. Now, her skins that have been released so far, her gold skin looks stunning. Her Snowdurf skin, just the fact that it changes the dragon too, is just absolutely crazy, and it's awesome to look at. And her water skin, it's a really different design when it comes to a skin, but it's awesome. I really like what they did. Imani has so many unlimited possibilities when it comes to skins because she has a dragon as well, and you can change the dragon to whatever the skin is. It's awesome. Like, say you make a mechanical Imani skin, you can change the dragon to be a mechanical dragon. There's just unlimited possibilities. Something else I want to talk about is her character design. Now, in Paladins over the past, I would say 6 months to a year, not some of the more recent champions, but a decent bit of them have been released with the idea of a normal FPS. So take Vivian, take Koga, those two specifically, you're pulling a lot of elements from FPS games rather than fantasy and mystic, you know, what this game is really based around. Vivian is kind of just that LMG shooting backline, I'm gonna mow everybody down. Koga is that close range submachine gun. Even though his character design is great, their guns and the way they work is really FPS designed. Now Imani is, I love this new direction with Imani. She shoots fire and ice out of her hands. No FPS that I can think of currently, there probably is, but no FPS I can think of currently has done that. And with the stance switching at the same time and all the different possibilities to her when it comes to comboing abilities, her ultimate, it's just amazing. The character design was really well on Imani, and I really respect them for the next step they're doing to make Paladins that fantasy shooter that it was really made to be. Now her loadouts is something really that I want to talk about, because at first when I first looked at her, I looked at these loadout cards and say, wow, these all aren't very good. All her cards are pretty average. But since they are all pretty average, they all have a chance to go into a loadout and have unlimited possibilities to be used. So I really like this loadout system. When I showed the loadouts earlier, I have 3 loadouts currently, but I could have made 7, 8, 9, 10. There's so many cards I could be using that I didn't use for Imani currently. I have 3 main builds, you know, one for fire, one for ice, and one for the hybrid build. So that's all I need, but there's so many different ways you can design your Imani to fit your playstyle, which is awesome. And that takes me to my next point. It's balance. When she was first released on PTS, she had a major balance issue when it comes to Ice form being insane and being the only form to use. And her dragon being uncounterable, an uncounterable 7,500 30-second duration dragon that sits in your spawn and spawn camps you until you want to cry and leave the game. It was awful. But the balancing changes they made more at the last, not really last second, but you didn't get to play much with it, was amazing. They decreased the duration of the dragon to 25 seconds, and they made it a deployable. Now, it was I think it was originally designed to be a deployable, but something messed up, and Imani became the deployable on PTS, so it was pretty funny. If you found an Imani in her dragon, when she was standing there, and you had Bulldozer, you could just like two-shot Imani, because Bulldozer worked on her. But the Bulldozer now works on the dragon. The duration wasn't decreased, and the damage the dragon does was decreased as well. This is actually a pretty balanced ultimate in my opinion, but it requires countering it with the item shop. Bulldozer being 150 credits, it's not too hard to expend one card slot on your DPS like Shaolin, Cassie, Leanne to get a Bulldozer to just instantly get rid of the dragon. It's a really huge balancing factor. And with the fire and ice form, with the first ice form, they decreased the bouncing duration on her legendary, which is pretty insane, from 400 to 350. It wasn't a huge change, but it helped her so much with all the fire buffs. They buffed fire, they increased the damage on it, they increased the mana gain on it, they increased the radius of her Inferno cannon, they fixed almost all of her bugs that she had in PTS, which is awesome. Increasing the PTS duration really helped this patch, to be honest. But they did an extremely good job of balancing out of PTS. Again, that goes to the point of longer PTS cycles equals more balanced, less bugs, and a better game. So great job to Evil Mojo on that. So let's talk about the legendary balance now. Splitting Ice used to be the best, by far. But one change they did really changed everything up. As well as balancing her fire form, Mana Rift used to be after standing still for 2 seconds. All they did is decrease it to 1 second. Now it's a viable legendary. It's that simple. Sometimes balance changes are that simple. It's not OP. What that does is when you're in fire form, all you have to do is stand still while you're winding up your fire, and you're going to have your mana as you're shooting it. So now you'll have the mana well next to you, and you're shooting constant fireballs. You're throwing fireballs at your enemy. You're standing in a well of mana. It's amazing. It's awesome to look at in the game. Sorry, a rift of mana. I keep saying mana well for some reason. But it's awesome. It's a really good visual, and it's really fun to play around. But I think there's some things that do need to be changed on Imani. First of all, one weird thing I think need to be changed. I noticed in the scrim the other night. She can use Mana Rift, and a card that she gains mana while she's in Glide. You can gain mana in spawn. I think that is a very unbalanced mechanic because it makes for 2 shots off the bat. Say you increase your mana until you get max mana, you shoot 1 shot and then you have an insta shot right after. You can 2-shot somebody off the beginning of the game. I think that needs to be gotten rid of. Frost Bomb. Roots should not cripple. I have taken the stance hard. Roots and cripples are 2 different things in every MOBA game, in every game that has crowd control. Roots and cripples should not be the same thing. A root, here's way I see CC. Root stops you from moving. WASD, but you can use moving abilities and CC immunity to get out of it. Cripples stop you from using your moving ability, but you can WASD. Stuns is the mix of both and is the best of both that stuns you and stops you from using everything. That's how CC should work. The Frost Bomb should not cripple you and stop you from using your moving ability. That needs to be balanced, and I feel like the rest of the game, just like Grover's root legendary should not cripple you. It just doesn't make any sense. Her Frostfire Glide, I feel like that should have a base speed increase, so pyretic momentum is not so necessary. I feel like it shouldn't be big, but it should have a slight increase. Elemental shift maybe needs a 2-second or 1 to 2 second cooldown decrease to make the hybrid build more viable. But that's really it. I feel like Imani is an extremely balanced champion. She's not OP at all. Her dragon can be countered by bulldozer. Her only thing crazy about her is her fire form 2-shot with fireball whenever you have full mana. Her 2-shot potential is insane, but that's the only thing. That's it. The rest of her is really balanced. I really honestly love the direction Evil Mojo is taking with the fantasy character design. Imani was a perfect first step for getting back into the fantasy. I feel like the next character really does need to be fantasy based to keep this trend going, because it's a great trend. I love it personally. I don't know how everyone else feels about it, but personally I feel like this is a great way to go with the game. Paladins should be that fantasy hero shooter to make it stand out. It already stands out because it has a loadout system, it has an economy in game, it has a card shop in game. It already stands out, but I feel like it really can stand out the more fantasy you add to the game. Now, I feel like Imani will fit into the meta when at least it comes to competitive in a mid-range role. She works well as a mid-range DPS, constantly doing damage from the backline. She can dive in with her Glide Inferno Cannon combo. She can set up plays with her Frost Bomb, but she fits in line with like Cassie, with Lian, with Shaolin. She kind of fits right there, and she can replace some of them on certain maps. Her dragon loses value typically on open maps, but gains value on closed maps because they can go through buildings. That's another thing. I feel like her dragon shouldn't be able to fit through tiny buildings. That's one balance change that I forgot to add, but it's kind of weird, her dragon going through tiny buildings. It's just weird, and I feel like if it's changed, it's like it really balances her. Like if you change it, her dragon won't be as useful. So I feel like you can't change it, but it needs to be changed. It's one of those things that sucks, but it needs to be done. But I think she'll find her way in the meta. She does things special, but she doesn't replace any characters. I feel like she is gonna find her way in the meta, but it's gonna take some time. I feel like she's really being picked a lot now, but I feel like she might be less later, because she doesn't bring, like I said, anything too special besides her right clicks. Her right clicks, if people learn how to use those properly and really take full effectiveness of them, she's gonna be insane. Now, she really won't, like I said, she won't change the landscape of competitive. She won't change much. She is a balanced champion. People will find uses for it, but that's really it. Imani, though, she is a extremely fun champion to play. You should get on Paladins and check her out. If you haven't already. I'm sure everyone has, but if you haven't, get on and check her out. She is so fun to play, and Evil Mojo, like I said, has done an amazing job balancing her. So great job to Evil Mojo, great job to the art team, great job to the design, great job to everyone there. They made a really good champion here, and I'm really proud to say that she's a part of the game I play for a living. But that is it today for Imani's champion chat. I hope you enjoyed it. I love these champion chats, always, as always. These things are so fun to make. The first part, second part. I love the second part because I can just sit here and give my opinion to you, and you can tell me your opinion down in the comments. I'd like to have a discussion. What do you think about Imani? What do you think about everything I said? Do you think that balancing should be different than what I said? The character design, you don't like the artwork, you don't like the ultimate, you do not like the legendaries? Let me know down in the comment section. Let's have a conversation about her. But that is it from me. I hope everybody enjoyed this video. I also hope you enjoy your day, night, evening, morning, dawn, dusk, or whatever it is where you live. And I will see you in the next one. Later. And a huge shout out to my Patreon supporters, Captain Splashclaw, Joseph Lavsa, and Joshua Blanchflower, and all others. Thank you so much.